Hey guys, so we're back here today and we got a 2012 Jeep Liberty and we need to put some new brakes on the front end of this thing. And before we start, I want to point something out to you. One of the things I enjoy doing, and I think it's a really good idea, is you've got your reservoir right here for your brake fluid. And one of the things I always do is I remove the cap off of that, and if you look at the inside, you can see that the cap has expanded. Now it's designed to do that, but you don't need it like that. I push those back in, and the purpose of that is just to help keep your pressure levels right. Now you can see that the fluid level is a little low, nothing to be worried about. But what's going to happen when we're doing the brakes is we're going to compress the cylinders back, and when we do that, it's going to refill this reservoir. So what I always do, I loosen the cap. Well, in this case, I've taken it off. I've put the pressure equalizer diaphragm back in place there, and I just leave it sit there, just loose. It's just sitting, and that's to keep fluid from spurting out, because believe it or not, it actually will. Trust me, I learned the hard way. And we'll leave that sit there, and that will allow the pressure, the fluid to come back up inside the tank without building up any pressure inside the tank. And then we're going to move to the wheels, and we'll show you how to do that in just a second. Okay, step one, if you don't have any power tools for this, if you don't have like an air ratchet, you're going to be using a good old-fashioned tire iron. And I like these as opposed to the ones that come with the vehicle. First thing you got to do is find the one that fits. Make sure it fits snugly. You don't want something that's sloppy. If it's like this, that's bad. Get it tight, because otherwise you're going to mangle up your lug nuts. But what you want to do before you jack anything up is just break these bad boys loose. And believe me, it can take some force, especially if they were put on by a shop, because they used a gun to put it on, and they got a lot of torque. Usually they put them on too tight, actually. But all I'm doing is just getting them busted loose before I jack up the vehicle, because once you get the vehicle in the air, all these wheels want to do, the wheel's designed to spin, that's what it's going to want to do. And it's a lot safer to do this on the ground too. All that action, you see the whole vehicle torquing back and forth. Buddy, that's on there. There it goes. So we got all 5 of them loose. You don't want that sort of action going on when you got your vehicle up on jacks. Not safe. Not smart. Now don't take any of the lug nuts off. Leave them on the vehicle until it's in the air, because right now this is still supporting all the weight. But all we've done is just loosen them up so that they can all be spun very easily. And one thing that I always make a habit of doing is going every other. So if you're paying attention, I started on this one, went to here, went to there, went to here, and to there. And that keeps you from bending up your rim. It's a good way to take them off. It's a good way to put them on too. All right, we'll get this thing in the air. Okay, so you want to check your owner's manual to find out where they recommend you jack from. Every vehicle has got jack points, and the Liberty is right here. But you want to make sure you're jacking up a vehicle in a place that is designed for that sort of force, because you will bend stuff up. You'll bend up floor panels. You'll bend up quarter panels. You could potentially put yourself at risk. It ain't worth it, folks. Find out the right spot. It'll take you like 5 minutes to dig out the glove compartment. Find your owner's manual. Find out where the jack points are. Sometimes it's just right on the jack itself. Whatever's easiest, but find it and use it. Also, yes, I love my jack. Yes, I trust my jack. Do I trust it with my life? No way. So I'm going to use a jack stand. This little guy right here. This one's been well loved and well used and abused through the years. It's got many coats of paint on it for me having stuff up on it when I'm painting them. And I do trust this with my life. It's heavy duty. It's stout. It's a static point for things to be sitting on when I'm working around it. Way safer than just keeping stuff sitting up on a jack. I definitely recommend using jack stands. It doesn't take that much. You know, if you don't have something like this, you can use wood blocks and things of that nature, but I'm going to warn you, it's going to have to be something real stout, like part of like a railroad tie, something like that. Don't put it on a stack of 2x4s and think that that's going to do the job, because it's just not. It's not solid enough. It's not strong enough. I definitely recommend you get a hold of a good set of jack stands. All right, let's get this thing in the air. All right, so what we can do next, once you got the wheel off, you got your vehicle secured on the jack stand, is there's 2 bolts, one here and one here. Now it's a bolt head. Technically it's called a caliper pin, because it's holding this caliper in place and allows the caliper to move in and out as it needs to. As the pads get more worn, the caliper actually moves across the wheel. It's designed to do that, it's supposed to do that, and it helps to make sure you always have constant pressure on the disc, on this part here. And to do that, this is just a 13 millimeter head, and it just pulls loose like this. And sometimes you'll need to put a wrench right here on the inside of this. There's a little wrench head designed for that, but these are apparently lubed up nice enough that's not really a problem. I can just hold on to it with my hand and the whole thing comes out. And same thing, another one right down here. It works exactly the same way. Now if these are properly lubed, they should just unbolt. We pull those out. And then this whole unit here will just slide off. And to do that, you want a nice big clamp. And I love these things, man. I don't use them too often, but boy, when you need them, they're so nice to have on hand. And now some guys will use a pry bar, which you could do if you like. I figure that the design is such that you can put a clamp on it, and you're going to use a clamp to collapse it the rest of the way down anyway, and so why do it a different way? Plus, we already went through the trouble of relieving the pressure up in the fluid reservoir, so we're just going to very slowly back this off. So first I just tighten it up, and then I just give it a little bit of a turn, just a little bit, just to let this relax back. We can watch the cylinder move back in. You can watch a little hard to see maybe, you can watch these rubber flaps will accordion back in there. And now, when I remove there it goes, you can see the whole thing moved. When I remove the clamp, the whole caliper just lifts right off. Real easy. And then you want to set this guy up out of the way. Don't let it hang by your hoses. It's pretty much a sure way of one of two things to happen. Either you're going to mess up your hoses, or when you set this, make sure it's secure, because otherwise it's going to come down on your hand or something. No fun. And then these guys here literally will just pry right out, and you can see that there's a little metal guide right there, and you slide this bad boy right out of there, which I'm just doing by hand. You could again do it with a pry bar or a screwdriver, but I'm just bringing it back out, and the whole thing just comes right out, and you're ready to put the new pad in. Now what we found out, I don't ever want to accuse anybody of being a disreputable mechanic, but I'm doing this vehicle for a friend, and the friend took his vehicle to a shop who told him it needed brakes. These brakes have still more than 50% of their life left in them. You compare this to a brand new one, there's tons of life left in this. And for the amount that he drives, he's got at least a year or two on these pads. There is no way I'm going to change these pads. But we already bought the pads. He'll just hang on to them. No big deal. But you do the same thing on the front and the back. You pull that out. You can replace these slides. They usually come in the kit. And you can, some guys will even lube those up. I don't typically do that. But if the manufacturer suggests it, then you can. But you can see, you just push that back in place, just like that. You do the same thing, front and back. Bring this guy back in place, right there. Put our two guide pins back in for the calipers. And tighten her all back down. Now, one of the things you're going to want to do is, while you've had that all apart, you want to compress that cylinder the rest of the way in. I use one of the old pads as a mounting platform. I just crunch it down with the clamp. It goes right back in, compresses right in. Take your time, give it time for the fluid to go back into the reservoir. But when you go to put this back on with brand new pads on there, the first time you hit the brakes, the pedal might go like to the floor. So make sure that you're doing it somewhere where you don't have to worry about hitting something if you can help it. Doing it right on the floor in your garage before you even put it in gear is your best idea, because otherwise you might find yourself rolling and you panic because the brakes aren't working. The brakes are fine, but you just got to give it time for that fluid to push that cylinder back out and compress on there so that it's right where it should be. Right now, the first time he presses on this, it's got that little play in there. It's designed to be there. But the first time he presses on that pedal, the pedal's going to go down, and that might freak you out if you're not prepared for it. So make sure you're looking for that. And then we just tighten up those two 13mm bolts. You can check those with a torque wrench if you like. But there you go. You're ready to go. Put your wheel back on, get the bad boy down off the jacks and jack stands, and you're good to go. Hey, you guys be safe out there, remember. Above all, we want to see you going home in one piece. One thing I do want to point out, I put a little bit of anti-seize on the lug nuts here, on the lugs, so that when the lug nuts go on and off, the first time they go on, they'll spread that around. So next time you go to pull your wheels off, it's going to be a lot easier, especially if you're doing it by hand, if you don't have any air tools. You know, a torque wrench will pop, you know, or an air wrench will pull that right off. But it's always best to put a little lube on there. Some guys won't do it because they think, oh, it's going to, you know, it's going to make the lug nuts fall off. No, the lug nuts will stay on if they're torqued properly. The only reason lug nuts fall off is if they're not tight. But all this is going to do is keep that lug nut from seizing on there with rust, because the water just works its way in. So a little bit of anti-seize on each one of those is going to save you a lot of trouble in the long run. So hey, you guys be safe out there. God bless you, and have a great day.